Poch starts Monday. That was one of yours today.
Yeah.
And he has got a lot of work to do, hasn't he? It's such a big turnaround of that club.
Yeah,
a lot to get out. Any more coming in?
Yeah, there will be. I think the first one they've already got Christopher and Kunku in. They're going to bring back Levi Colwill and Malo Gusto from loan spells at Brighton and Lyon. And then they're going to, look towards the, midfield. I think obviously Jackson as well from Villarreal. There's a striker coming in, and then you've got sort of a midfield situation to sort out now. They've sold so many midfielders. We mentioned Havertz, we mentioned Kovacic, we mentioned Mount, but also Kante has left for free. So there's a lot of midfielders going out, and Moises Caicedo is the main target, and he has been for a while. I think that should happen. I think that it's going to be a substantial fee. Fee's the hardest thing. The player wants to go to Chelsea. Brighton will let him go for a large fee, but I think that fee is going to be the issue. So it's just a case of how much now at this stage, and that's something to thrash out. But looking at Chelsea's bank account, especially after the Mount deal, it shouldn't be a problem really. Yeah. I think that Pochettino has some work to do around the forwards, but I think the most important thing really for Chelsea is almost tactical. It's looking beyond this. It's about building a team spirit, and hopefully some people step up with goals. I mean, Sterling's in the past has got great goal returns, so you can get goals from other places. Liverpool get the goals from the wings, so it doesn't have to be the front men, does it?
But Pochettino, he loves that sort of developing young players. He likes that sort of family spirit. Can he get that at Chelsea, or he's still got to clear out a few more, isn't he? There's quite a lot of those players who are squad players seem to be going as well. Yeah, they've done well. Still a few more to go?
Yeah, still a few more.
Pulisic, maybe?
Pulisic. I think that maybe there's a few others. There's Azpilicueta's, his future's in doubt. Big one really. Legendary player. Trevor Chalobah might leave, I think. So there is a couple more. And then I think that Pochettino's really building something from scratch here. Chelsea were in such disarray last year that I think that there was a lack of sort of team spirit around the dressing room. That needs to be fostered. Need to improve the fitness levels of the squad. Need to just build an identity, a tactical identity. When you've had 4 managers, you don't have a tactical identity. So that's what this pre-season is going to be about. He's going to have 2 weeks at Cobham and then 3 weeks in America, and then he's going to come back to the UK for 1 more week before the season starts at home to Liverpool. So he's got to do a lot in that time, and almost start with players who don't know each other that well as well. Going to be a few signings, loads of goodbyes. It's a bit of a bittersweet summer for Chelsea, but actually they've sold players so fast that they might be in a good place for pre-season that Poch can start building all the things I just said.
It's a similar situation when he went into Tottenham, because he had to get rid of a lot of dead wood, which was from the Bale signing. He had a core of good young players, so he brought through Harry Kane, Ryan Mason, Andros Townsend, and so on. And then he fostered that team spirit. He had a young Dele Alli. Ericsson was the one, still young, who was a success with the Bale money. And Eric Dyer had just come in as well. So he had that young, hungry core, and that's what he's got to do. But it took a year really before he got that going. And then of course they were just pipped to the title that year by Leicester, and they had a real go, didn't they, for 4 or 5 years? Yeah,
it was an incredible effort, wasn't it? I think that season though was a bit, all the big teams seemed to be in disarray, didn't they? So that's why Leicester went and won the league. Pep had just arrived, and the other teams weren't really ready to be as dominant forces. And now you've got Manchester City who are a bit tough, so to beat. So the landscape is a bit trickier, I think, for Chelsea. But they've got to really start from sort of square one and just sort of build up. And I'm not expecting too much from Chelsea right away, but I think they've got the right manager in, absolutely, for what they've got to do. So in a way, I'm really positive, but in a way, I'm also like, this is going to take time.
For you as well. For me, watching from the outside with Graham Potter, the relationship between him and the owner is really, really important, isn't it? Especially with the owner buying players. Maybe I found that Graham Potter looked to be quite oblivious at times with some of the players that are coming in. So do you find the key factor going into this season is Poch really creating a good relationship with Todd Bowley to then not only have an impact on the pitch, but then it adds a massive impact to fans watching around the world?
You definitely have to manage upwards in these clubs and in these top jobs, and Pochettino had a tough, we talk about Spurs, but he's at PSG as well, which was quite tricky, so he's got a bit of that chaos at Chelsea maybe to deal with, although it does feel a bit more controlled now than last season already, because they've got 2 good sporting directors in, one from Brighton and one from Monaco, so they've got Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart, and they're doing the business more than Todd Bowley. So he's taken a step back. He knows a bit of what's going on, but he's not doing the day-to-day. So they've got like dedicated football men in the job now. So hopefully that will also help, and Chelsea will be a bit more coordinated and keep people happy that they need to keep happy, which they failed to do last season, and also make more considered signings. I think it felt sometimes like they'd sign people too early. Maybe there's 4 players for this one spot sometimes last season, so they can't be doing that again, and they need to move to a more considered approach.
Just one quick question about Poch, because we were in that briefing with Todd Burley, the new owners, when they came in, and they did a sort of off-the-record briefing about, Graham is our man. It's a 5-year project, and then a few months later he's gone. I mean, Poch, you think is going to be there long term, but there's still no guarantees. I mean, just before coming in, I look back on, I've been covering Chelsea since the late 80s, so 34 years. Yeah. Pochettino is the 28th manager I've dealt with in that period at Chelsea, going back to Bobby Campbell. Right? And in their first 60-odd years, 62 years, they had 7 managers. They've had 28 in the last 34. So long-term manager sort of reigns at Chelsea just haven't happened, have they, for a long time?
I think he
will need time, won't he? He needs a few years to turn it around.
He will need time. I hope the expectations are realistic, so probably get a bit of a sense of that on pre-season, like how realistic the expectations are. And I'm hoping that Europa League finish even would be acceptable for him, because I think that would be a relative achievement coming from where they've come from. And with all the new players, a lot of them are very young, so try and do that. I mean, the Premier League as well is harder than ever. Everyone's rich now. Everyone's won the lottery in the Premier League. So Chelsea one of the richest teams in the league, but they all are now. Villa are very aggressive in the transfer market, and Newcastle. So it's a lot of players to deal with. So I think that's going to be tricky, and just think that Chelsea do want a long-term manager. They have for a while. I think for the old owners wanted Tuchel to be the man potentially, but then new owners had different ideas. So it's just like there's always something in Chelsea's sphere that pulls them off course, and certainly they wanted Potter to be the main guy, but and now they want Poch, so I think they do want that. He's only got a 2-year deal, which is a bit concerning, but I think there's good faith there that they want him to be a long-term manager, and we'll see. Football is chaotic, and most clubs are, but Chelsea seem to be just that little bit more.